Welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to welcome this session of Content Reigns Supreme, organized by the Bologna Children's Book Fair. Our fellow friend Nick Richardson, CEO and founder of the Insights family. It's really a big global, I would say, research group specialized and focused on children's content. We are very pleased that he can share with us some exclusive data on children's digital trends. And I will invite Nick on stage to talk about this research he has prepared for us. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Christina, and nice to be here for the Bologna Children's Book Fair 2021. As Christina said, I'm going to talk today about some of the digital trends that we're seeing. But before I get into that, just let me take a few moments just to introduce who we are and what we do. Our business, the Insights family, we have a single purpose, which is to provide children, parents and families with a voice to shape their worlds. And in doing so, we also have a mission to become the business critical partner for the world's top brands who are looking to engage kids, parents and families. We're now in 17 markets, surveying just under 370,000 kids a year and just under 180,000 parents. But the beautiful way of what we do is that we provide a global solution, but with a regional perspective, and we can provide a local understanding, because in each country that we operate in, we survey 400 different children and 200 different parents a week, and those children and parents are age, gender and nationally representative, meaning that you can really go down to that detail, something which I believe is becoming increasingly important as we see the move from globalization to localization. So one of the really clever things that our incredible team of researchers and developers have created is our portal, which you can simply log on to get access to all of the data. Please feel free to go on there at theinsightsfamily.com and have a look for yourselves. We're confident you'll be impressed. So in terms of what do we know? Well, we recently did an industry survey, which we just put out the findings of. And it was really, really interesting that essentially 89% of businesses agree that the world is moving faster than ever before. And 8 out of 10 businesses actually anticipate that the way they do business now will be very different in 2 years' time. And despite this acknowledgement, there is significant change and disruption in the marketplaces that we operate in. Only 6% of industry professionals believe they've got a sufficient understanding of this demographic of children, parents and families, which is surprising and really kind of gets into our purpose of what we do, because by providing children, parents and families with a voice to shape their world, we can also help clients get a far better understanding of this highly empowered and increasingly influential group of consumers. And in each market we operate in, we have 20 parameters that we monitor children's influence on. And what's really interesting to see is how all of them have increased over the last 12 months as family time has essentially been reinvented during COVID. And the beauty of surveying children and parents on an ongoing basis means that we will start to see how this will change and evolve as we enter a world, hopefully in the non too distant future, of AC or after coronavirus. So I always like to start off with context in terms of time and influence. And what we've done is we're in 17 countries, as I mentioned before. So we've just had a little bit of a look at different data from around the planet, just to give you an idea. And if there's anything which you see in here and you'd like some information on a particular country, please do drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to help. But what these charts do here is just really show how mobile phone usage in the day and console usage in the day is essentially ebbing and flowing throughout the day. And of course, there'll be no surprise by some of the flows there to coincide with the school day and everything else. But what we can see is just how it compares to the UK. So if we take 3 to 9 year olds, 28% of kids in Italy aged 3 to 9 are watching TV after 9 p.m. compared to just 6% in the UK. And we work with a lot of clients who use this data to help them with scheduling, to help them with advertising campaigns and content marketing and so on. But it's really interesting to see the very significant differences by 2 countries which are so well connected. And going further forward, what this graph does is it shows in terms of a day in the life of by share. And what we can see is how what children are doing is changing significantly. So whilst gaming has increased by 6 minutes per day, that might not sound a lot, but to put it in context, that's around about 3 hours a month. And likewise, in terms of the online activity, by 8 minutes, that's getting to about four and a half hours a month, which is significant in terms of the amount of time which children have in the day. And I think what this is really showing is how digital is increasingly becoming the place, the ecosystem for this generation of children, and how their attitudes and behaviour and consumption are not just affecting them as a child, but are also very much affecting this next generation of consumers who are grown up with very different ideals than previous generations. So if I now jump to America, just to look here in terms of comparing data over the last 10 months, and this is just at the time really when we started to see COVID affecting our data in May, we can see how there's been significant increases here in terms of influence on book purchases. And this is just one example of the data. We have influence across the board, be it on cars and holidays and various other things. And this has been a trend that we've seen throughout our data. But the good news for a lot of you here today, that if you're working with children in the book space, actually the key message that I would keep on saying is that this generation of children, you need to listen to them and understand them. And once you do that, you've got a really great opportunity to engage them. They have to be at the heart and at the nucleus of everything that you're thinking. So in terms of digital trends in 21, what's been really interesting is to see how the world is speeding up quicker than ever before. And, I look here in terms of how long it took for these different platforms to get to 50 million users. It took the TV 22 years to get to 50 million. It took the internet a mere 7 and Facebook a mere 4. But when it became to Pokemon Go, it achieved 50 million users in a mere 19 days. That is just an absolutely incredible statistic. And it shows how the power of children being able to connect digitally means that trends can come and go quicker than ever before, and how if you're not understanding them and keeping them abreast, how the differences between winning and losing has never been so slim. So when we look at a kid's digital ecosystem, in many ways now, with children having access to so many devices, and so many devices now having similar capability as technology improves significantly, really it's more about the content as far as I'm concerned. We can see that all of these devices in front of us will be used to unlock gaming, music, and content, the three most important reasons why children will be using those digital devices. And we can also see how new trends such as wearables, which we've been talking about for the last couple of years, that we really think 21 is going to be a significant year of growth in the wearables category, as it's really started to go from just the early adopters to now becoming more and more mainstream, and it's becoming a lot more accessible to children as the price of technology and children's attitude and awareness of wearables also becomes more prevalent. So we talk about generation speak, and this is a generation speak. For those who've not heard me say it before, is we had generation type, which was me, my computer keyboard tapping away. Then came generation swipe, who preferred to control their console, their device by touch, and now we've got generation speak, who are preferring to control their devices by their voice. And it's really interesting. We've been looking at our data, and around about the age of 9 seems to be the cutoff point where it really starts to accelerate. So children under the age of 9 have got a far stronger preference, about 25% increase in terms of those children who prefer to control their device by their voice. And we've now started to see this coming to innovations in the toy sector, also in terms of the growth of audio. And I think there's some really interesting opportunities here to really think about how we look to engage this generation of kids who've got a far stronger preference and a far increased requirement to use their voice to control their devices. One of the other interesting trends we see in the digital space is how, as mainstream becomes more fragmented, and media is becoming more and more fragmented, how, as a result of that, the niche is now becoming more mainstream. And we've seen here in our data that we've seen some reductions in popularity from Netflix and YouTube, and certainly not at the point of predicting significant decreases on either of those two platforms. But as niche platforms such as Twitch and Discord, both two platforms which focus around gaming engagement, being allowed children to talk to one another or watch esports or watch competitions, are increasing significantly, then it really shows how kids' time and attention is becoming even more fragmented. So in my mind, one of the themes that I'm seeing for 2021 is how niche is going to become the new mainstream. So in terms of now is the time to redefine the term audience. This is something I've been saying for a few years at various different conferences we've had the pleasure to speak at, is that for years ago, you would talk about children as consumers or as audience. That's not the case anymore. We have to think differently. This generation of children are co-creators. We've got Ryan's Toy Review, one of the biggest influencers in the world. We've got IKEA, who've recently appointed a chief child to work with them on product development, a new position in their business. We've also got the likes of Minecraft and Roblox spending millions of dollars a year in terms of giving kids access. And there was the recent example of the kid from America, from California, who has now become $1 million Fortnite player in terms of his success and being paid for that. So I really do believe that the term audience and the term consumer need to be redefined, because in my mind, they're not fit for purpose for many of the boardrooms that we sit in today's world. So one of the areas that we've seen a huge increases is gaming. Gaming is now very much at the centre of kids' digital world. And interestingly, what that is also doing is it's changing, going back to my previous point, is that it's changing children's requirements, desires from content. They have a far greater desire and expectation to not only passively consume content, but to actively be involved in shaping it, creating it, and interacting with it. So gaming has continued to increase in all markets that we've seen over the last 6 months and 12 months during the COVID period. And in particular, we've seen significant increases with girls. So we've seen big increases here, and again, this is an example from our data, nearly a 12% increase from October 2020 to February 21. We've seen that spurred by the likes of Animal Crossing, which has really cemented itself in a nice niche position of being a game which is very much enjoyed by girls. But it's not just platforms like that. We've seen how Roblox is an interesting example. How whilst Roblox remains very popular with the younger boys, we actually see in a lot of our countries how it's the older girls that get into Roblox at the same time. So quite popular with tween girls, for example, in some of the markets that we're seeing. And as esports now becomes more mainstream, I think we can expect to see significant growth, not just with boys, but with all children, and predominantly in the girl space here as well. And gaming platforms, it's been interesting to see, and I think going back to the media piece now, we recently launched a media mix compass, which is a media planning tool. And what that does is it reviews 11 different types of media, from social to gaming to esports to YouTube and of course broadcast TV and streaming. And what's been really interesting is we've been doing that work with a number of clients to look at where they should be planning their media. And it is incredible to see how much of children's time and focus and frequency of their digital consumption is spent around gaming. And one of the reasons, which of course is for that, is that gaming is no longer gaming. You know, you can play Fortnite and you can watch concerts. You can go there and meet friends. These brands are now building metaverses, which has become a digital universe. And this trend was very much happening anyway. But with so many children around the world being in lockdown or having restrictions, it has been one of the things which has been incredibly accelerated in our data and as a trend. And I think as we start to come out of lockdown, one thing which our real-time data will be doing, will be tracking to see if we've essentially seen a plateau of digital. Is this as big as it will get? Or as children come out of a digital ecosystem, will they start to crave more traditional and more analogs and place a higher value on a more traditional way of engaging and talking with each other? It's a very difficult question to answer that, and really you could make a compelling argument either way. But one thing we will be doing is, of course, tracking the data on a continual basis and making sure our clients know before anyone else does. TikTok, I remember seeing TikTok when it first came up in back end of 2018. We started to see it, and really we were starting to talk about saying we think this is going to be big. It had a very similar demographic in terms of some of the things which we spotted in the data when it came to Fortnite and esports, and some of the things that we do in terms of looking at trends and assessing trends. TikTok filled a lot of those boxes, and our expert team of researchers were predicting back in December 2018 that we thought TikTok was going to really take off. And as this chart shows from our data in America, we can really see how it's accelerated. And what's been interesting too, as TikTok has accelerated, is how the demographic profile of TikTok fans have changed as well, from being quite niche to begin with tween girls, to really now opening up to be across more age ranges and different demographics over time. So social media is really changing the way that we all talk about things. And our global data indicates that nearly 60% of kids are purchasing related merchandise to their favorite YouTuber. And that to me is a really interesting point, because when you look at licensing, traditionally you had licensing around favorite TV, favorite film, favorite entertainment, maybe favorite sports team. But we've seen two categories in our data accelerate beyond belief over the last couple of years, which has been YouTubers and social media stars, and also gaming, both of which we're tracking our data. And again, I think one of the things that we're going to start to see now is trust becoming a more important value for millennial parents, Gen Z parents, and of course Gen Alpha and ultimately Gen Beta, which will come along in due course. Trust to me is something which is very much a really important part of building a successful brand and to engage these demographics. And we've got things like Clubhouse, which has come along. And whilst it's still quite small in the data, only 2% of teens in the US are using it, we've started to see an increase in interest in this quarter. So we'll continue to track that on a daily basis. But again, interesting to see how these innovations are now filling the gaps, with smart speakers having such strong penetration in terms of households across the world, and also more and more devices being voice enabled. It's very much allowing apps like this to spring up and succeed. Again, another trend that we've seen really accelerated by COVID is direct to consumer in terms of shopping. And again, I think this is another example of over the top. There are so many industries now which are going through an over the top business model, trying to cut out the middleman, which is again a trend in itself, and one which our research has been talking about for a while. But in January 2020, nearly 40% of Italian teens are spending more money online than offline. However, by March 21, online shopping has increased to 71%. To put that into perspective, that's nearly double in a relatively short period of time. Now, as we start to come out of this world, we'll be interested to see, will this stay or will it not? And again, I think social shopping very much feels like it's going to be the future here, with more and more brands integrating shopping and shopping experiences with purchasing opportunities. So we can see here across these countries how spending online has really increased. And this is also with the younger children as well. We see some really interesting innovations from Amazon, which have allowed children to almost request products which mum and dad can approve. Again, really showing how this generation of kids are really financially empowered and far more influential than the ones before. But as we can see there, looking at the data from Spain versus America, it proves that it's not a one-size-fits-all strategy here. There's significant decreases in each region that we operate in. And if you drill it down further by the different regions in each country, it will become even more different and apparent. So to conclude, digital is shaping much more of the kids' ecosystem than ever before. Brands are now increasingly building significant ecosystems or metaverses, which are becoming a one-size shop where children can live in. And these are becoming more and more niche, and niche is now accelerated to become mainstream. But of course, there is still room for traditional hobbies and interests. Reading in particular is the second favourite hobby amongst teenagers in Italy, and kids, and what we're also seeing, kids who partake in traditional activities such as arts and crafts, board games, and reading are generally more happier and are feeling less anxious. So that's one of the beauties of the portal, that you can cross-reference this data to understand even further. So there's some really, I think very much as we look forward, we can expect to see a world which will become increasingly digital in parts, and physical and traditional hobbies and interests having more of a digital element included to them. But I still very much believe there is ever much need for traditional, and with us all being stuck inside for a long period of time, we could start to see actually this was the digital world plateaued for children. But like all good things, only time will tell. Thank you so much. If you would like to have a look at the portal and get a free report, please go to try.theinsightsfamily.com/Bologna. And of course, if there's any data in here which you've seen of interest, please let us know. We can send you a copy of the presentation, and we're more than happy to pull some data on anything you've got a request for. So thank you very much.
So thanks, Nick. All the data, all the info you have given in this session are extremely interesting. And I will say that the big challenge, and this is also a question for you, I mean, you are a data analyzer, but you are also an expert of the industry. What happens is that, also based on your presentation, this world is becoming more and more fluid also in terms of platforms and how to reach the target. I mean, nowadays it's not TV the focus anymore, but social media, YouTube, and gaming. So many brands are working with Animal Crossing to launch their even fashion lines regarding to their own brands. So according to you, if we talk in particular about children's content, which could be or will be the main tools they should use to catch the right audience, if we think about all the incredible stuff they have at their disposal right now? Which is your opinion in this regard?
It's a great question, and in some ways, if you'd asked me that question 9 months ago, I think I would have probably given you a fairly generic answer. But standing here now and seeing what our team have developed, it's very apparent there is not a one-size-fits-all approach here. The first thing that any brand should be doing is understanding and defining exactly who their market is. It's too remiss to say I'm looking to target 9 and 10-year-olds. We have to be smarter than that, because if you're not smarter than that, the fragmentation of the media landscape means that you can get it so wrong. And that's why we built the Media Mix Compass. So, for example, in that particular tool, you could choose boys age 3, girls age 3. You could choose different age limits. You can also choose what interest they've got. So if you were looking to target kids who like superheroes, you could choose children, say between tweens, 10 to 12. You could see what their media landscape is. And then you could do a similar exercise, literally 3 touches of a button, to run the same exercise based on children who are 10 to 12 who say superheroes are their favorite characters. And I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what the differences are, but what I can tell you is they're significant, and that gaming and esports will overrank others and others will drop down. So I think that my response to that is that taking a generic one-size-fits-all strategy is a thing of the past. Or if you're going to continue to do that, by all means carry on, but just be very much aware that the return on investment you get from marketing engagement is not going to be as good as it could be, or you might get lucky, but you're probably more likely to be unlucky. Using tools like ours, which as far as I'm aware is the only one of its kind, will help you really, really understand who you want to target and what you should be targeting them with, because there's just too much out there. I mean, I think we review something like 1,500 different types of media in every country based on this media mix compass, which is so much different. I mean, when I was a child, there was 4 or 5 TV channels, 4 or 5 kids magazines, a few radio stations. You know, this is now 1,500, and it's 1,500 per country. You can't guess at that rate.
Yes, absolutely. And you said something that I will have ask you right after. Yes, you as the Insights family, you have the tools to help companies to find a good way to work in this industry that is so packed of content, so packed of tools, and so many times brands can get simply lost if they don't find the right partners to work with, the right tools to invest on, and budget even has to be spent very, very in a smart way. So you have the tools to work on this. You said before if you can just explain a bit better how you work on that. Yeah.
Sure. So what we do in each country that we work in, we survey just over 400 children each week who are age, gender, and nationally representative, and 200 parents. And the parents are of children between the age of 1 and 16, and the kids are 3 to 18. So we're collecting all of this incredible data about children's attitudes, their behaviour, and their consumption. And our portal houses all of that data. But in the last year, we've made a significant increase in investment in data science. And we've got now a pretty large team of data scientists who also work in very close collaboration with academics and academic institutes from around the world. And what they're doing is they're essentially able to use the data, machine learnings, and all of the latest techniques from a data science perspective to start to build scores and aggregate that data further. So one of the first tools that we've launched is the Media Mix Compass. And the Media Mix Compass reviews 11 different types of media in terms of YouTube and gaming. When I say different types of media, I mean the master category. And then underneath that, we review, I think, another 1,500 different types of media. So it could be different TV channels, it could be different YouTubers or YouTube channels, different magazines, and so on. And by putting all that together, the data scientists have created a score, which is based on preference, time spent, and frequency, to essentially assess all of those different elements. And then we built a ranking score, which scores each media platform a score out of 1,000 and ranks them. So going back to the example I gave before, if you're looking to target, say, tweens, you can put tweens in, boys and girls, and it will give you a score, and it will tell you which platforms will have the best score based on those 3 parameters. But then you can also add a second filter, which you can start to put some specialisms or some things which are specific to your audience. So it could be that they're more likely to like superheroes. It could be that more likely to be gamers, whatever it is. And then it will go through the same calculations and give you another diagram very quickly, and you're able to see what's under indexing or over indexing. So therefore, you can start to be smarter with your budgets, smarter with your marketing, or with your marketing, start to have different messaging. So some parts of your messaging will be very much to your current consumers, your current fans, which I think is so important, because it's about building advocacy and about recognizing that these children are not just audience or not just customers. They're part of your experience. Going back to my point earlier about that, we've got to redefine the term audience and consumer. And secondly, if you're reaching out children who don't currently really engage in that space, then you can start hitting them with a different messaging, and you can start engaging them in different ways to start to bring them into your brand or your ecosystem. And I think that's a really important part, that you can't just have a generic strategy. It just won't work, and it will get lost. And even if it doesn't get lost, if you've got that much budget to do it, then surely you should be doing it smarter.
Wow, I would say that is really impressive. And as far as I know, you are a global right now, so you are opening offices in every corner of the globe. And how many families are you used to interviewing? Your research is for how many children? Just an average data.
Sure. So we're now in 17 countries, which include US, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Russia, India, China, Japan, Philippines, Indonesia, South Korea, and Australia. We'll be launching 3 more in the next couple of months. It's too early to give you an exclusive on those, but stay tuned. We will let you know as soon as we can. But in answer to your question, it's about 370,000 kids a year, and about 180,000 parents. Or there's another way to look at it. Every 111 seconds, we interview a member of the family. That's what we do. Every 111 seconds, we're interviewing a family member, which is quite a statistic. It keeps us busy.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we will welcome again the Insights family in another important event we are working on, that is on May 11th, about the International Kids Licensing. It will be the International Kids Licensing Day. So Nick, I really thank you so much for your time and for this incredible presentation that you have prepared for us. We will be so happy to share it with all the attendees of this masterclass. And we really wish to welcome you back in Bologna next year.
Thank you. And as you know, Christina, we'd hoped to be in Bologna last year, and unfortunately we're not here this year, but we are counting down the days to seeing you all in person in 2022. We're very much looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. You can imagine how much. So, yes.